Some train rides end at their destination, but others lead straight into horror. Stay with me, because what happens next will send chills down your spine. Story 1. The Forgotten Train Yard. I've always preferred doing my graffiti work in abandoned places, where there's no interference and the walls are untouched. That night, my friend Lucas and I stumbled upon an old train yard, a vast stretch of rusted freight cars that seemed frozen in time. Excited at the sight of a fresh canvas, I started spraying my art while Lucas stood nearby, lost in his cigarette smoke. Everything was going smoothly, until we heard it. A sharp metallic bang shattered the silence, making us free. Then, something unexpected happened. A spray can I had tossed aside came rolling back toward us, as if someone had deliberately thrown it. A low voice followed, warning, "You better not trip, boy." And then, gunfire. Without a second thought, we bolted, fear surging through us like fire. Days later, curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to go back in daylight, this time more cautious and armed. Strangely, my graffiti had been crudely covered with random splashes of red paint, almost as if someone was trying to erase any trace of it. As I wandered deeper into the train yard, I found one of the cars with its door wide open. Inside, an unsettling sight awaited me. A lone wooden chair, its legs bound with thick rope. The entire place reeked of bleach, the stench so overpowering it felt suffocating. Just as I took a step closer, another metallic clang echoed in the distance. It was faint, but enough to send my pulse racing. Without looking back, I turned and walked away, my instincts screaming at me to leave. Even now, I have no real explanation for what happened that night. The fact that someone, possibly armed, had been lurking there, watching us, was horrifying enough. But the chair, the ropes, and that overwhelming bleach stench suggested something much darker was at play. Was it just a territorial squatter? Or had we stumbled upon something far more sinister? Whatever the truth was, I was just grateful we made it out alive. Story 2. The Tunnel Horror. I used to be big on train hopping with my friend, but it had been years since I last did it. Before leaving for Germany, I thought I'd relive the rush one final time. I found a secluded stretch of tracks and waited for a slow-moving freight train. As it approached, I jogged alongside, grabbed hold of the ladder, and pulled myself up. Just as I settled, the train entered a pitch-black tunnel. That's when I noticed something strange, a faint, flickering light deeper inside. I barely had time to process it when I felt an ice-cold grip wrap around my ankle. My balance faltered, and I struggled to hold on as something, or someone, tightened its grasp. Before I could react, another hand smacked against my leg. Panic surged through me, and I scrambled up the ladder, my heart pounding. The moment the train emerged from the tunnel, I jumped off, realizing my problem. I had to go back through that same tunnel to reach my car. The thought sent a wave of dread through me, but I had no choice. As I stepped into the tunnel, I gripped a rock for defense, every nerve on edge. Then a sound broke the silence, a slow, deliberate clicking noise, almost rhythmic but disturbingly unnatural. My throat went dry. Steeling myself, I called out, "I'm armed! Stay back!" Silence. Desperate, I pulled up a gunshot sound effect on my phone and played it at full volume, hoping to scare off whoever or whatever was there. Without waiting, I sprinted through the tunnel, convinced something was right behind me. As I neared the exit, I chanced a look back and saw them. Two shadowy figures stood motionless in the distance, just watching. Then suddenly the tunnel was filled with a sound that made my blood turn to ice, an ear-splitting, unnatural shriek that didn't belong to anything human. I didn't stop running until I was back at my car. That night, I made a silent promise to myself. I would never, ever train hop again. Story 3. The Subway Deception. Working the graveyard shift in the New York subway system has its fair share of eerie moments, but nothing had ever truly unsettled me until that night. I was cleaning an empty station when a metallic clang echoed from deep inside the tunnel. At first, I ignored it, assuming it was a loose pipe or a rodent, but then it happened again, louder this time, as if something was deliberately trying to get my attention. Still, I brushed it off, until I heard a child's voice, faint but clear, calling for help. A chill crept down my spine. Hesitant but concerned, I stepped closer to the edge of the platform and peered into the darkness. When I called out, the child simply replied, "Just keep walking." His tone was eerily calm, almost rehearsed. My eyes adjusted to the darkness, and that's when I saw him, a small silhouette standing a few feet inside the tunnel. Relief washed over me for a split second, but then I noticed something else. Behind the boy, barely visible in the shadows, was another figure. It stood still, silent. My stomach knotted with unease. Every instinct in my body told me to leave. Slowly, I backed away, my pulse hammering in my ears. The child spoke again, his voice hollow. "Wait, where are you going?" I didn't answer. I climbed back onto the platform, heart racing, and immediately called the police. They arrived within minutes and searched the tunnel thoroughly, but there was no trace of the child or the figure I had seen. The only thing they found was a single child's shoe, left abandoned in the dark. The officers suspected a possible abduction attempt, but no missing child reports matched the incident. To this day, I wonder what I had nearly walked into. Was the boy really in danger, or was he bait? And whoever was standing behind him, were they human? Some mysteries are better left unsolved. If you like this scary story, don't forget to like and share. Your support keeps the horror alive. Have your own spooky experience? Share it in the comments. I'd love to read it. Stay tuned for more terrifying tales. Mer's Dark Tales.